Hansel and Gretel. The classic Brothers Grimm tale of the two children who wander into the woods, come across a deceivingly sweet but cannibalistic witch, get captured by her, and proceed to literally boil her alive is a story known and told by many. It preaches the message of having common sense and watching out for strangers, no matter how friendly they may seem at first. Simple story, simple message, all well and good. So leave it to our good buddy Canon Movie Tales to take that story and kind of ruin it a little. Alright, being fair, when I first saw this movie, I was expecting a lot worse than what I actually got. There were some aspects of the film here and there that I surprisingly enjoyed. The witch Griselda easily steals the show. Her actress is fantastic and she was so entertainingly evil that I just loved her performance. The songs, while not amazing, were charming for what they were and fit their scenes okay. I really like the set design for the gingerbread house. It gave me some similar vibes to the chocolate room from the 1971 Willy Wonka film. Obviously it's not quite to that scale, but I did get similar vibes to it. And the scenes with Griselda's reveal as a witch and her basically mind-controlling the kids to do her bidding were actually unnerving. They were well-done scenes with good camera angles and lighting. But unfortunately, they weren't enough to save this film as a whole. Hansel and Gretel themselves are believable enough as kids, but they were also really bland more often than not and don't have anything to make them different personality-wise from each other. You could pretty much swap their roles with each other at any point in the film and it wouldn't change at all. They're essentially the exact same character. The father character especially feels like such wasted potential. He has this subplot set up at the beginning where he's getting stiffed by the baker and it's implied that this is an ongoing thing, but less than halfway through that's apparently resolved completely off screen, and he spends the rest of the film aimlessly wandering the woods to search for his kids. He's an incredibly flat character that has any possible interestingness to him sucked out halfway through the film. If they wanted to set up Hansel and Gretel getting the breadcrumbs from the baker by having the father character have a history with them, that would be fine, but having it be entirely resolved off screen feels like a waste, especially when they don't do anything with the character afterwards. It's as if they forgot he was a character halfway through, and only threw in the scenes of him traversing the woods without any real thought of making it important to the story. And the mother character absolutely sucks, like oh my god. It's perfectly understandable as to why she'd be upset with the poor state that she and her family is forced to live in, but that doesn't justify the film having her be straight up abusive to her own family. She berates her husband constantly even though he's the one getting ripped off by the baker. She shows zero concern when her neighbor tells her that kids have been going missing in the woods and are presumed dead. She calls her own children stupid and idiots to their faces multiple times, and then straight up shouts that she'll never forgive them, never, when they accidentally break something, and intentionally sends them off into the very woods that she was just told 5 minutes ago children were going missing and getting killed in.
What the fuck?
I get that the movie needed to have a reason to have Hansel and Gretel go into those woods in the first place to get the main story moving forward, otherwise they wouldn't have met the witch at all, but this was a horrible way to go about it. A lot of scenes are super forgettable and don't really amount to much, especially when it's outside of the gingerbread house. There were also some various aspects that either confused or frustrated me. For instance, it's never made clear if the gingerbread children are in the cookies or if they are the cookies themselves. In some scenes they're shown to be able to cry or move their heads, or even have different facial expressions entirely, but when they're actually talking, their mouths don't move at all, and when they finally break out, the cookies look like hollow shells. It's really inconsistent. And in fact, why would the witch place them outside of the house at all? Wouldn't she just eat them on the spot, or at the very least save them for later in the house, since eating them is very much explicitly what she intends to do? And the film's ending is incredibly rushed. Hansel is about to be boiled alive and turned into a cookie by the witch Griselda, and she mind controls Gretel into bringing Hansel into the boiling room and tying him up. But then, for absolutely no reason, Gretel somehow breaks free of the mind control on her own with no explanation of how she did, and very quickly disposes of the witch by turning her into a cookie, which somehow makes the house blow up.
That's impossible. It doesn't make any sense.
It all happens way too quickly and is incredibly anticlimactic and unsatisfying. Like, I'm pretty sure the shots of the house blowing up afterward take up more time than the actual final battle. This movie has some okay aspects here and there, but on the whole, it's just really boring and forgettable. Not to mention it feels like it drags on for incredibly long despite it only being an hour and 25 minutes. It does the bare minimum at adapting the original fairy tale without adding anything new or interesting to make it worth watching. There's nothing of worth adding to the story to justify its length, which just makes it drag and put in too much filler just to fill in the story beats. Overall, while it's at least not the worst fairy tale movie I've ever seen, Happily Never After 2, I still didn't get much enjoyment out of it as a whole. And when it comes to fairy tale films, I assure you that there are way better options out there that won't leave you feeling quite as grim.